The power of thought. In this work, the astonishing part of it is that we are finding groups of people all over the country carrying on the same experimental work, more particularly the conditions that can be brought about by thought. One group will come out and announce that in their study and experiments they have about determined that thought travels at a rate of speed 1,000 times greater than light. That is an astonishing thing. Another thing, it shows us just what we can accomplish through thought, if we will but control thought and the actions pertaining to it. Now, this group have determined fully that a bar of steel being put through the many processes of its development can be changed through the thoughts of the people working on it. That is an astonishing condition revealed in the past few months. It shows how we are progressing. It shows the control which we can use. If we can control a bar of steel with our thoughts, how much more we can control our bodies in every action and vital movement. Those are not our determinations, but are the determinations of the independent groups of people and scientists working along that line. Today, there is beginning the greatest change with every condition of the human family controlled by thought of action. Cannot we see where that is taking us? What Jesus meant when he said, every thought shall be accounted for. Cannot we see that he lived the most scientific life that we have ever known? Does it not make his life more vital to us and more comprehensive? Definite thought action. Man's complete dominion over every condition. Man the Lord of the universe, complete with the divine principle. Now the Bible has told us that. Jesus has told us that. Still, we have been in the dark. Today, the scientists are bringing it into existence in a perfectly complete way. Their studies are carrying us on to an unfoldment that is greater than any to which we have ever looked forward. Those very conditions on which we have speculated are coming about. We have been told that they were speculations. Even our churchmen have told us that God was speculation and that there was no basis of conclusion except through faith. Today is the knowing factor. Jesus explained it when he said, make the faith knowing. We are doing that today. We have taken theoretical speculation out into the natural, brought about through man's own thinking. It is a well-known fact today, proved photographically, that our thoughts control not only the body action, but every atom and cell that is created in the body. Now, that brings us to another conclusion, that we make a success of everything we undertake. Many make a success of failure. We make a success of it ourselves. Now, we will turn completely with the same attitude of thought, changing it to what Jesus meant by the truth. We will make a success of perfection, and we cannot fail. Why? Because scientists are telling us that we do nothing to build perfection. It is already built. The only condition is to work definitely and become one with that perfection. Definite through action, definite principle, never wavering. We cannot but succeed. Scientists are telling us that we use 96.4% of our energy in negative thinking, thus taking perfection out of our body and giving it to the negative thinking. There has been deep study on that, and it has been proved conclusively. We bring into existence this psychic condition, this turmoil, and this illusion we think we are in. Today, it can be proved that it is only a psychic condition. Where does it come from? We have taken it from our body, thereby building up a hypnotic influence. It can be dissolved instantly. Jesus said that it can be accomplished in a twinkling of an eye. Does that say that it will take years? No, it can be done instantly, and it can be shown photographically. What did Jesus say positive thoughts are? I am, not I will. With the statement, he covered every condition. When he said that the truth makes you free, he knew full well that the truth or positive thoughts freed you of the negative condition. It is wholly up to the individual whether he returns to the negative or not. Jesus said, I go always forward. Did he ever look back? Was it a sacrilege when he said, I am God? He knew the scientific fact back of it. He was in contact with a condition that has always existed, and he lived by it. Greater civilization than ours have lived by it, but they began to see dual. Then what happened? Duality began to take energy from their bodies to keep duality in existence, and immediately that energy was flowing from their bodies to their own thoughts, building up the psychic condition. There is a great impetus swinging thought back into its perfect condition, where our dominion lies. And it is not through some spectacular experience. No one ever saw Jesus come forward in any spectacular condition. It has always been a quiet, determined movement in the right direction. We are going back to the scientific value of thought, showing photographically how it operates. There is a camera in existence which exposes three films at once. Before that camera, we seat three people. One is a person who can think definitely in one direction. Another takes a more or less neutral attitude, allowing conditions to flow through his thought. The other thinks negatively, allowing himself to stay under this hypnotic influence. What happens? In less than 1 minute, the body of the person thinking definitely begins to show in light upon the film. There is a very slight light surrounding the one thinking neutrally. In the case of the person thinking negatively, there is no change. When completed, the picture of the person thinking definitely stands out in a blaze of light. We find that the body of the person thinking definitely is the true body. The true body is a light body, and it always emits light. It may be kept in direct line with perfection at all times. Nothing can touch it. Just lately we saw the experiment tried. That person got up from his chair and took 3,000 volts of electrical energy. The vibration of his body was so high that the current flowed through his body, doing no harm whatsoever. There was nothing spectacular about the experiment. It was done scientifically. It means this: that is proved that this body is indestructible if you take the right attitude of thought and train the body to produce those thoughts. It is a simple process. It may seem complex until we understand it. It can be traced directly back to the lesson of the crucifixion. The crucifixion was not a spectacular display. It was a test, and Jesus knew that he was going through it. Therefore, he could say, I am about my Father's business. He knew that he worked with the Father and that the Father and he were one. He went further and said, I am God. Now, what did he mean by that? He was using a definite principle for all humanity to use. He knew that humanity had already risen to a high degree through the understanding of that very principle. He was only showing the way. They could take his body and place every limitation on it, even to putting it into a tomb, yet he could come through it. The emanations were such that they would have burst the rocks of the tomb before the body could have been destroyed. We have seen that condition brought about through laboratory tests, completely proving man's dominion over conditions. Man, the ruler of the universe, completely unlimited. If we would only get out of our attitude of limitation, as we were told, just open your eyes to see. Asking what we would see, we were told. God. Most of you have heard of Dr. Carroll's book, Man the Unknown, in which he tells of seeing healings of conditions called unhealable by the medical profession. Even more lately, he has told of experiments with people who know how to pray, not in the old beseeching way, but standing in full dominion, and he states that he saw 100% healings. Now, is it not wonderful to have those statements from a man like Dr. Carroll? He probably knows more about the human body than any other man today. Many things about which we have speculated are being taken out of the superhuman and unnatural and placed where they belong. With man in complete command, perfectly natural and perfectly simple, it is simplifying Jesus' teachings so that we can study them in the light in which they belong. Today, we are coming back to simplicity in every attitude of thought, without diversity, but in unity, with every thought carried to that high point of contact where it accomplishes needing but one thought to accomplish. In every root language, although the word for God is spelled differently, the letters have the exact vibration influence. It was only a short while ago that we thought of God as a great being set out in the skies, and that we could not find out about him until we die. Today, we are discarding that idea. The result is that we are brought into the knowing attitude. We know that we become that very thing when we stand one with it. The moment we do, our body falls right into line. I think you have heard me say many times that if we say the word God meaningly, reverently, and with due thought, the vibrations of our body will never respond to the same influence as before we said that word. It is known today that such a body fills with the energy enough to light a 20-watt globe. That is proof of the building of energy in the body until it overflows. That influence carries out to the multitudes. Jesus knew that he talked to the multitudes, that the principles was flowing from his body. Many saw him standing in a complete blaze of light. How can we doubt for a moment that he did not know what he was doing? He was presenting those conditions to humanity to use, and we have been all these years trying to understand them. Now they are coming home to us. We are rising out of the hypnotic condition in which we have surrounded ourselves, and of which we made a success which did not satisfy us. In, in turning to the other, we shall make a greater success. Why? Because it is so much more simple and takes less energy. It can be shown photographically how each cell is built. The moment a cell divides itself from the parent cell, and the instant before it divides itself, it takes on the exact image of the parent. As it goes out, it comes under the influence of this imperfection that we think for ourselves. What happens? We see the vibrations of the cell lowered, and in some instances, when it attaches itself to the organ where it belongs, it is a dead thing. That cell, which started out with all its energy, has become a dead cell in less than 1 second. The very thought influence of imperfection influences that cell until it dies. The vibration goes so low that the dynamic influence flows out. That is where you have the root of every disease. Now a new body begins to build immediately as a right thought surrounds us. That same life energy can be induced to return. Death as we have known it is not accomplished. This is not the conclusion of only one group, but of many groups. We cannot affect principle irrespective of the energy we have given to other conditions. Never in his talk did Jesus mention the devil. It is only ourselves who have built his satanic majesty into our consciousness. Where would it get its power? Merely from the individual. But that has not changed principle. There is no devil, there is no death, there is no damnation. Jesus never used the words and never thought of them. In fact, such instances as are recorded in the Bible are merely folklore. He never used the negative word or condition and never recognized a power other than God, explaining that humanity has used that great power singly. We are not at a loss any more to explain those conditions. Many people have seen through them, but generally it has been thought to be more or less visionary conditions. At times we get beyond the hypnotic stage, and then a flash of the real comes through. Then we do not hesitate to accept it. Each experience of this kind makes us stronger in acceptance than we are about our Father's business. When Jesus has multiplied the loaves and the fishes, and the people had tried to crown him king, what did he do? He simply withdrew. He had shown them the way. They must take the next step for themselves. It has taken people 2,000 years to recognize it. Scientists are telling us that this principle is even older than humanity and, in fact, has always existed. Before Abraham was born, I am. It gives us an entirely new light upon the subject, new only to us, since it is the old condition brought about by our understanding. We must accomplish for ourselves, standing for our own feet, as did Jesus. Questions and answers. Question. Have we a political leader among us who understands the truth? Answer. That I cannot say, but our politics are not going to keep them away. When our political situation becomes a failure, we rise above it. Jesus said that every man was king. If we stand in that attitude, politics fall right into line. We are not a flock of sheep. We do not need to follow. Question. Will you explain the Battle of Armageddon? Answer. We fight that every day. If we go off the material, the fight is over. Question. That will be the fate of the nations which are drawing away from all religions? Answer. Christianity, as it was presented to those nations, was not accepted because it was presented with too much materiality infused in it. But they are going to find that no nation can live without spirituality. It is the very foundation of every nation. Our Bible says that God is a spirit. The A does not belong in the statement. God is spirit. Question. Does your third volume contain the same teaching as the first two volumes? Answer. It carries on the earlier teaching to a higher determination. It is the completion of those experiences. Question. Is the second coming of Christ meant to refer to the coming of Christ consciousness or reappearance of Jesus? Answer. He is always on the earth as he was. When a man accepts the Christ, he stands face to face with that very thing. It means that Jesus will come forth in bodily form to many more. Question. Why is it that we know so little about the masters who are working among us? Answer. It is because they work quietly. The master does not need to advertise himself. We still have the first one to say to us that he is a master. They are of the people as much as anyone else. Question. How long will it be before the denominational hatreds of the world are dissolved? Answer. We cannot determine that. It is wholly with the people themselves. If they draw apart, there is an eventual submergence. A body is but represented by the units of that body. When people are ready for a better condition, they shall be joined to it. Question. Why do not the churches send people to learn about all this instead of teaching hell and damnation? Answer. They are seeing the change and attempting to cooperate. There is a definite attempt for the union of thought. People today are coming much closer than in the past. They see that it will be necessary to cooperate or be isolated. We can help them by the attitude we take. Question: is it necessary to go through death and reincarnations? Answer: it is not necessary if we accomplish all in this life, and we can if we will. But if we make the mistake of what we call death, there is a remedy which is called reincarnation. Before the life element leaves the body, the choice is made, and the choice comes about by the definite attitude we take in this life. Question: it is not true that we are all masters in a degree? Answer: we are not only masters in a degree, but we are wholly masters if we determine in that way. We could not even think of it if it were not already accomplished for us. The power of positive thinking. When statements are made in a positive, determined manner, their accomplishment is unlimited. We can show the scientific value of positive thought and be stating positively of condition. It can be proved that back of every positive statement is a working principle or truth. Therefore, we can readily see that Jesus meant when he said, "The truth makes you free." It was not promised for the future as "the truth will make you free," as it has been erroneously translated, but as a definite statement in the present tense. We find that the most definite statement that humanity can use is the statement so often read, "I am God." The statement, "I am not God," having no positive force and truth, does not belong to humanity. Positive declaration free us from the negative conditions. In the original language, there was never a negative word, nor a past tense. Every negative word in the language was injected into it long after the language was born. The language that Jesus used contained no negative words. He lived always in the present with no negative thoughts, accomplishing in that definite positive declaration. Looking at these facts, we can see how one would accomplish, knowing that back of every pronouncement is a positive, definitely force that brings that pronouncement into existence. These simple principles are so definitely presented in a new attitude of thought that the whole human family is waking to them. We find that the human race in ancient times learned to use these principles. That influence never ceased, and as humanity presents the ideal today, that influence gathers force. We have carried out experiments with the photography whereby we see definitely how hypnotic negative situations deceive the eye, but not the camera. Irrespectively of any seeming condition, there was never anything created by the negative thought. Negative thought begets a hypnotic influence, and where that influence is used to create an effect, that effect cannot be photographed. Negative thinking takes energy from the body, whereas positive thinking adds and creates energy. Scientists tell us that if there were one atom out of the place in the universe, the whole universe would fly apart. Every human body is a universe containing a solar sun. We have forgotten our birthright. We are hypnotized into a condition in which we do not believe. Without belief, there can be no creative power. Although we refuse to harmonize with the principle, we cannot be taken out of it. It is necessary only to review the above thought to have the harmony reassert itself. Question and answers. Question: can we help to eliminate karma from the minds of others, and how? Answer: the greatest assistance we know is to see others standing forth definitely as the Christ. Question. There are so many different teachings, and while they all hinge on the Christ, they approach the subject in different ways. Can you tell us the best way to take up the teachings? Answer. We have no method of teaching. Of course, there are many attitudes of thought, and that is reason for the different teachings. Do they not all point to the same thing? Question. Some teachings point to the present and some to the future. What is the ultimate goal? Answer. In reality, is not perfection in existence already? If we would accept it, that is all that is necessary. I have no choice of lessons to make for you, but it appears to me that they all bring us to the point of acceptance. There are many attitudes of thought, and it may be necessary for one group to take one series of lessons and for another group to take another series. If we look to perfection as in the future, where would we accomplish it? I feel that we can all make the determination that perfection is here and now and accept it regardless of any lessons. Question. Isn't it true that Paul did not attain the Christ consciousness? Answer. If Paul was struggling to attain the Christ consciousness, he had not attained it. Anyone works face to face and side by side with Jesus if he presents the Christ. Had Paul ascended to the mastership, he would not have been disciple anymore. Question. What is the woman's part in this new age? Answer. Just as much as that part of a man. We are all one. The male and the female are one. They only separate themselves. There is no separation in spirit. All is spirit. Question. To whom do you pray? Answer. To God, presenting God to the world. We do not pray to an outside deity. If there is an outside deity, that deity must be within. Your life is a prayer. It isn't mere words. Consequently, by the reduction of prayer to mere words, we fail in the accomplishment. Question. What about healing? Answer. There is no healing. Healing is a name for condition that comes about. You cannot keep perfection away if you allow it to come to you. Question. Isn't the deity three? Answer. Where would you find three if it is within yourself? It would be only the deity you make if you make a division. Question. Could there be such an ideal situation as the complete change of our monetary system to the extent that no money would be used? Answer. We do not look forward to such a condition. In our economic system, money is necessary, but you will see it so plentiful that people will not put the same value upon it. There will be a general distribution, not for gain, but for service. Question. Can you tell us something of the life of Jesus from the 12th to the 30th years? Answer. We know positively that he spent the last 9 of these years in India. Evidently, he went about from place to place, seeing a great deal of the things he later taught. Suddenly, he find him standing forth, showing all humanity that it could accomplish just as he did. He lived that life to show mankind that it could present the same condition and live by it. Question. Did Jesus suffer bitter anguish on the cross? Answer. In all probability, no. We were told that he was far beyond suffering. He showed all humanity that man could put any limitation on his body and he could rise above it. Question. When you were with Jesus, did he give you any special message? Answer. No. We have many messages he gave us. The messages in the books were presented with the thought that we could give them out as we wished. None of his messages were exclusive in any way. We have never found him working exclusively. Spiritual harmony. I have referred before to the Temple of Silence, in which we saw so many remarkable healings. We were told that if a piece were chipped from this building, it would renew itself immediately. Such an accomplishment has been photographed, and we have seen the human body renewed in the same manner, and by the same principle, but in even greater degree. Why is it that we do not respond instantly to these conditions when even inanimate objects do so? It is because we have hypnotized ourselves into disbelief. It is because of the lack of acceptance that humanity has lost its heritage. The power is just as evident and potent now as it ever was, and every human being can use it. It is the power that produces so-called healings, which are not healings in reality, but acceptance of that perfection that is never in any way changed. When we accept perfection, we are out of the condition of perfection. It is the natural thing for humanity. It belongs to humanity. It is humanity's highest attribute. If we would let go of the condition with which we have surrounded ourselves, when we have allowed imperfection to express, perfection would come forth so dynamically we could not express an inharmonious word. That is the only necessary condition for the humanity to become completely perfect, to make this body indestructible, pure and in evidence at all times, never veiled in mystery or outside of itself or incomplete. This body has a central sun around which every atom revolves. Each atom itself has a solar sun around which the atoms revolve. When we stand completely immersed in that declaration, we can make it as simple as I am God. With that, not only every atom, but the solar sun of every atom begins to emit light. And the moment that light appears, every atom shows itself to be in complete harmonious accord. The moment light begins to appear and those atoms begin to glow, there is not a semblance of inharmony in the body. It is completely healed. Thus it is not that each one can not only heal himself, but can bring himself directly into spiritual harmony and accord with the universe, with the universal, and one knowing that can say, if your eye be single, your whole body is filled with light. And that light is the light that lights every man who comes into the world. Each person can declare these conditions for himself, and by that declaration he assists every other person to that same declaration. Although that person to whom the influence is directed may accept it unknowingly at first, through that acceptance inharmony is swept away, and so it is not selective, it is in complete accord, complete unison. Questions and answers. Question. There are some here who have not studied metaphysical teachings, who are not satisfied with the orthodox teachings. Answer. It is not necessary to renounce anything. If the orthodox teaching is not to your liking, put a better thought in its place. It may suit millions of people, but if it does not suit you, put a better thought in its place. It is for the individual to present a higher attitude and a higher condition, and then things fall into line always. Question. Can you give God a definition? Answer. By giving God a definition, we localize him. We say people are in orthodoxy. Isn't it our fault that they are? It isn't that the other fellow does, it is what we do. The person in orthodoxy may be well satisfied. If they are not satisfied, they are looking to a higher situation. They are perfecting an ideal for them to follow. They must go on with the perfection and become one with that ideal. You may call that metaphysics if you wish. It does not need a name. It needs an attitude of thought toward the accomplishment. Do the masters precipitate their food? Question. Do the masters precipitate their food? Answer. We do not look upon these things as precipitation. The food is there instantly. There is nothing said about it. We sat down at the table, and containers were filled. And as we used what was in them, they were filled as many times as necessary. We have never been able to bring anything about so that we could photograph it stage by stage. It would seem that it came through the method of precipitation. It was there instantly as we could see it. Question. Was the Jew responsible for the crucifixion of Jesus? Answer. We do not put that at the door of any nationality at all. Had he not wished to present a condition through which all men could go, they could not have crucified him. It was a definite method to show his people that they could go through these conditions without the least effect upon themselves. Had it not been for that purpose, he could have taken his body and gone on with it as he showed many times. It was not a thing imposed upon him except that he allowed the imposition for a purpose. Question. Can you tell us some method for attaining mastership? Answer. There is no formula. It is wholly in the determination of the individual himself. The greatest presentation of mastership to us is the statement of Jesus, Behold, Christ is here. The moment we present Christ and live that life, we are the master. Then we are a master of every situation and every condition. It is a perfectly simple declaration. It is the person presenting the Christ to the world. As Jesus often says, the greatest sermon ever preached was Behold God. How could there be a greater sermon? Question. Where was Jesus for the 50 years of his crucifixion? Answer. He was with his disciples. He is still in the same body as he always was. End of chapter. Spiritual harmony.